Hey there, this is your pal Pally, and welcome back to Git Er Raid. Onward ho! Through Heroic Siege of Orgrimmar. Next up is Heroic Shaw of Pride. This encounter has you moving constantly to avoid crap on the ground and playing Pac-Man? Yes, Pac-Man. This fight can be 2 or 3 healed, but as usual we ended up 2 healing it here. There are 2 additional mechanics on Heroic. One that appears once per cycle for the boss, and the other is there constantly throughout the fight. So let's get to the cyclical one first, the Pac-Man one. Essentially, soon after the ads spawn, but before the prisons, one of your DPS or healers will get transported into another realm. It is your job to kill the ad that is left behind by them, and then they are broken out. Basically kind of like Garrosh's mind controls. Switch quickly and get them out. But what happens to the person who is sucked out of the raid? You land in the same room, but with a maze and some Shaw ads running around. You are forced to walk forward, and if you hit the edges of the room, you take damage. If you run into one of the patrolling Shaw ads, you instantly die. So you have to run around, not hitting walls, and not running into anything until your raid breaks you out. This usually takes just 5 or 6 seconds at most. The fun part is that you can run into these golden orbs, and if you do, you'll be healed to full, as well as buffing your raid to break you out faster. I wish the maze was more complicated, but the basic strategy is to take your first left, and then turn left again. If you reach this orb, turn around and go back the way you came. If you aren't back into the normal realm by the time you get back to the junction, scold your raiders for not switching targets to you soon enough. This mechanic of sending someone into this banished realm happens once per cycle for the boss, so about every minute. The only real difficulty you might have from this is being able to pick out the ad to kill in the normal realm if there are a bunch of ads up previously from the self-reflection part. Get a targeting macro or something and target Corrupted Fragment. The other major mechanic change for Heroic is these rifts all around the room. One of them opens up every 8 seconds or so. Each one of them spews a Shaw bolt towards your raid. If you get hit by it, you take some damage and gain 5 pride. Obviously that's a bad thing, so watch your feet for the little exploding indicator under there and move quickly. If you've done Dark Animus, it's a similar mechanic to Anima Font. You might be thinking, wow, a rift every 8 seconds? That's gonna get out of hand quickly. And if you do nothing, that is indeed the case. But you are able to run over the rift to close it. You take some damage, but more importantly, you get a debuff for 1 minute that doesn't allow you to close any more rifts. So the basic strategy here is to have your raid be aware of nearby rifts and close them when they can. You can get 100% of the rifts, but it's probably not worth having almost your entire raid doing this as the rifts get spread out. At the very least, your tanks can grab one when they aren't tanking, and all of your DPS can rotate through grabbing the rifts. Be very careful though, if you're out of range of healers and have the nasty dot in there, you might die from closing the rift if you aren't topped off or aren't near a healer who can get you back up quickly. The hardest part of this mechanic is just remembering to go back out and do this again and again after your debuff expires. Use some kind of weak auras, or just remember about the same part of the boss cycle that you did at last. So if you closed a rift right after prisons, then do it again next cycle. That's it for mechanic changes, so let's talk strategy. As always with heroics, you will have to be tighter in your execution so that things don't get out of hand. For example, the Gift of the Titans was a nice-to-have buff in normal mode. In Heroic, it's pretty essential to getting through the fight, especially when it comes down to granting your raiders immunity from gaining pride. This is true in 2 particular instances here on Heroic. First off, healers should only dispel if they have Gift of the Titans, and it should be top priority to dispel. If you go willy-nilly about dispelling, you will make things worse later on. Secondly, you may not even have known this mechanic existed, but when the manifestation big guy in the back dies, he shoots out some pride to the nearest 2 people to him. Not a big deal on normal mode, but on Heroic you'll want to avoid this, so you need to have at least 2 people with Gift of the Titans stack up on the ad as it dies so that it will shoot that pride out at them. We designated this purple raid marker as the stack point for the ad and for the people with gift. Side note, this is actually how the achievement is done for the boss, so do it right. And of course, in general, you should keep the people stacked who have gift so that they can get Power of the Titans and do 15% more damage and healing. So with that, here was our raid positioning. We generally were in the area of this green triangle marker, except for tanks who were up front around blue square. People with Gift of the Titans would be in the area of yellow star, and as aforementioned, the purple diamond was for gift people during the time when the big ad was out. Beyond that, people would individually go off and close rifts. The raid as a whole would focus on the back half of the room for the most part. The melee, tanks, and myself would occasionally hit a rift up front, but we seem to keep the number of rifts pretty low using this approach. The last major thing to mention is the damage of Swelling Pride. With our raid DPS, which I'll show at the end, we had 4 Swelling Prides before we pushed into the last 30% phase. And of course, you'll get at least 1 more Swelling Pride beyond that, so plan your raid CDs accordingly. The swell comes every minute or so. I planned to use my deterrences for each one, but failed for the most part. Other 1-minute offensive CDs should be used and raid CDs coordinated. And of course, you should review what happens when you get higher and higher levels of pride. You may have never seen a projection in normal mode, but it's highly likely on the 3rd or 4th swelling pride you may have one. Lust is still best used in the same place. Hit 30% and beat the crap out of him while he AoEs you right back. We chose to not continue closing rifts and just dance around everywhere. Our Shadow Priest loved it, let me tell you. Don't panic in this phase, just take care of all the normal mechanics and survive. Oh, and one more quick thing I forgot to mention. The ads that spawn from the ground should likely be tanked as they do a bit more damage. They'll probably get mowed down in nothing flat, but you might as well avoid raid members getting gibbed. So if you break people out of the Pac-Man game quickly, avoid all the missiles from rifts, and consistently close rifts, that should be all you need to get this thing done. Thanks for watching, and please comment, like, and or subscribe to the video if you found it helpful, and have a good one!